Hey, Emma,
Yes, Madelyn.
what's the best time to release the punchline for the Hollow Knight sequel?
I don't know. When is it?
I don't know. Hello and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
Maybe I'll deliver the punchline at the end of the episode, host Madelyn.
I'm your super spy host, Emma.
And thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Talk This. Yes, we're talking about Syphon Filter, and we're talking about Hollow Knight Silksong.
Is it pronounced Syphon Filter?
How are you pronouncing it?
Syphon?
I think that that's just a distinction in how much we are articulating it.
Fair. It's not spelled like you would normally spell siphon.
Yes, it's got a Y.
And an O.
I'm pretty sure siphon always has an O.
If you say so.
Great. Well, now we've gotten that out of the way. Syphon Filter is a 1999 third-person shooter from Eidetic, which is now Bend Studios, right?
Yes.
So surprising when a studio is still around.
I forgot to look. Are they still around? I forgot to look.
I did look. They don't seem to have released anything since Days Gone, but
There was I remember some sort of controversy around them and Sony having some sort of disagreement or something.
they are still around.
Yeah.
In Bend, Oregon. But yeah, they don't have like a release of anything in the past almost decade.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay, the thing is, in January of 2025, they canceled some kind of live service game they'd been working on.
Right.
And then they laid off a bunch of people. But
Sony had every single one of their studios working on a live service game like that was going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did talk about Days Gone.
We did.
On the show.
Which is crazy, because that means that it was a new game.
Yeah.
Like 7 years ago. 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Days Gone, woke. Sorry, the issue I think is not woke.
But we're not talking about that right now.
No.
We're talking about Syphon Filter.
So yes, third-person studio from Ben Eidetic, now Ben Studios, published by Sony for the PlayStation 1. It's out on the PlayStation Network. You can play it. Syphon Filter, I don't know if it's probably not really even correct to call it a cult classic, because it reviewed well.
It was successful.
And was quite successful at the time.
Just because something's old doesn't mean it's a cult classic.
Anything old can only be liked by people in a cult, actually.
That's fair.
How it goes.
Yeah.
But it has the feel of a cult classic. Is sort of what's interesting to me about it. Is when I was reading about this game, I was like, oh, this is the classic, nobody bought it at the time, it wasn't appreciated, and then now people are like, where is it? I loved that as a kid. No, it sold well and was well reviewed and was right in that Metal Gear GoldenEye sweet spot of PlayStation 1.
Yeah, I think that that perception perhaps comes from it is talked about next to Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear in general a lot. And certainly Metal Gear has the more enduring cultural legacy, but that is a hard bar to live up to.
And notably, even though it is also sort of a, stealth action type game, they've been clear in contemporaneous interviews and retrospective interviews that they were working on it and they kind of freaked out when they saw the Metal Gear 3 trailer.
Just the first Metal Gear, I think. Yeah. First Metal Gear Solid.
Sorry, you're right. Anyway, they got freaked out by the trailer, but it was not they were influenced by GoldenEye. and by the films of John Woo and all sorts of other stuff. But Metal Gear Solid was not. They were not pulling from it directly. It's just a bunch of people thinking about the same thing.
Yeah. There's a story of Richard Hamm, the design lead. He was saying that at, I guess it was E3.
Yeah.
They were playing the Metal Gear Solid trailer. Konami was like every hour on like the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like dominating the conference. And so they found it a little bit intimidating to be like, oh man, they're doing everything we want to do, but better.
Yeah.
Even though in the end, Syphon Filter is definitely a different sort of experience too. It is much more akin to the cover shooters, I think, than it with an espionage coat than it is to Metal Gear Solid's more stealth focused approach.
Exactly. So to give a little bit of context for the story here, so the game follows Gabe Logan, who's kind of your main hot guy, special agent, right? Mm-hmm. And Lian Jing, his female compatriot. And the US government is like, hey, some bad stuff is happening with this terrorist group. Can you all check it out? And one of your agents has gone missing. And there's a weird, like, biological warfare maybe happening. Can you all check that out? And basically they discover this virus called Syphon Filter, which is a bioweapon that these terrorists have that can be, like, programmed to kill certain people. I don't know. A lot of, like, murky spy logic here. But the story runs all over the world. There's like a bunch of levels that take place in DC, but also they're in Kazakhstan. They're all over the place. And ultimately, in the end, it seems like maybe the good guys were the bad guys too. And that leads into Syphon Filter 2.
Mm-hmm. Which they apparently, like, banged out the script for the weekend after Syphon Filter released.
Yeah, they were like, we sent the rest of the team home. But the two lead guys were like, all right, let's go.
Yeah. Which is funny to think, like, because the first Syphon Filter's development was pretty protracted for a game of that time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, in comparison, Syphon Filter 2 was out within a year and a half.
Yeah.
After
Less,
Syphon Filter.
like 14 months, I think.
And that's why I said within.
I know, but significantly less. Like, not like a year and 5 months and 29 days. Sure, a little over a year, really.
Yeah. But, like, the initial pitch for Syphon Filter was just, like, a one-pager someone at Sony's 989 had sent over to them.
Yeah, they were like, this is a cool title.
Yeah, and the plot was went through several iterations over time as different people were brought onto the project. And none of them had experience with making anything like this sort of game.
No.
Idelic, what is it? Eidetic had just made Bubsy 3D, which also I hadn't known. Possibly one of the worst games of all time.
Led me to the discovery of the Wikipedia worst games of all time list.
Yeah.
Which is not what the title of the page is. Like, the hyperlink on the page was worst games of all time, and I got very excited when I saw that. But it's like, games notable for negative reception. Just put worst games of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, people... maybe we will talk about Bubsy when the new one comes out.
Right.
But people did not like Bubsy 3D at all.
Yeah.
And that was very much like their first attempt at making like a 3D sort of game, which for what it's worth, apparently like doing some slight things for a theoretical Bubsy 4 is the initial like work that Syphon Filter was built off of, which is wild.
Yeah.
To think about.
Bubsy
They've made
engine.
a lot of different games over there, is really what I'm gathering from this.
Yeah. No, it did strike me once again that the every week Madelyn, wow, the industry has changed thing. Man, you don't get to make another game again after making one of the worst games of all time. Now, like, that's it. Yeah. That's the end. So it was striking to me to watch that and then be like, and then somebody came to them with an idea for another game.
Yeah.
Like, not like, then they persevered and somehow found a way to make another game. It was then somebody, aware of the fact they had put out this horrible game, came to them and was like, how about this?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
And even I in one of these interviews I was reading, like, they were still kind of thinking about more Bubsy.
Yeah.
It's like, are you sure? Are you sure they should make more Bubsy?
Yeah. I mean, some of it is, from what I was reading, is like, well, you know, obviously the transition to 3D games was a big leap for everybody in terms of how do you do that, what skills are needed, you know, all your people who were good at pixel art go home, you know, like it's just a totally different ball game. And so it seems like some of it was, even though it was really bad, they like had made a 3D game.
Yeah.
And that put them ahead of the pack.
Yeah. They were trying things. You can certainly say that.
Exactly.
No, there's an interview with the PlayStation blog.
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago.
Which, by the way, there were a bunch of like 5 or 6 of these games that came out between like 1999 and 2007 or something like that.
Yeah, I think there was a main sort of trilogy, and then maybe 4, and then definitely a couple of PSP games.
Yeah.
Because when the PSP came out, there was a spin-off of every major Sony franchise for the PSP. But it was with John Garvin, who is currently or at least at the time, I don't actually know if he's left, but it was the creative director at Ben Studio. And I think it was really interesting. He was talking about, like, we wanted to really sell this sort of fantasy, so we put in things even if they were kind of janky.
Yeah.
Like, they had very low budget rendered movies. He said they didn't have articulated fingers.
I liked his bad movies are better than no movies quote in that blog post. Which is an interesting, like, I don't know. At the time, certainly yes.
Yeah.
Now I think we've circled back around to, like, I don't know, like, maybe we don't want that if it's bad.
And also there's like the classic spy moment where you're going to like a black tie event, right? And like slipping through the crowds or whatever. And so they have a scene where there's a bunch of palette swapped NPCs essentially drinking cocktail glasses. And then by the time the game starts, you're out of that scene, but you can like hear a looping track of like party in the background to sort of sell that fantasy. And he's right. Like nowadays, that's not enough. I need to be moving through that party.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I need to be seeing fabulous dresses everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not filling in the gaps of the fantasy there. I need you to give it to me. But it's interesting to be like, just reflecting on like how long game development takes now, right? And like the expectations of players for big first party releases, and whether we have the ability to fill things in with our imagination anymore, if we really need like pure fidelity, not just in graphics, but like in the way systems interact, right?
Yeah, and it's why a studio this small and this new to this could get away with making this game.
Yeah.
Which they said very clearly. They were like, it would be way too expensive to do anything like this now. You'd need mocap, you'd need whatever. Yeah, we can't imagine anymore. That's the long and the short of it.
Or at least, you know, I feel like once you introduce a certain level of fidelity, like there's a shift in how the player perceives what they want out of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I can still play a pixel game and imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But once the characters start looking like me, I want them to interact more with the world.
I will say, we're all very into PS1 era graphics right now. So I guess I will take back just a little bit. I'll retract that statement just a little bit, which is that maybe if you are making a game that is making a big deal about, you know, basically being a PlayStation game, maybe you can get away with it.
But they couldn't, is the thing. Like, if you're making an indie game, go crazy.
Yeah.
If you're Ben Studio, no freaking way, man.
Yeah.
That's sort of what I'm saying here.
That's true. But see, I do wonder, though. I'm just thinking of the average gamer.
Yeah,
right?
That's what I mean, too.
Well, but like an interesting, like, does the average gamer know who made the game? Like, also an interesting, like, I agree that I often bring the context.
You know when it's like a big game.
That's true.
Not necessarily who specifically.
That's fair.
Like,
That's fair.
Yeah. When Ghost of Yote come out, I think the average gamer is like, oh, it's the big Sony release.
Yeah. That's fair. They also had, like, nobody voice actors for this.
Yeah, it was, they were not SAG at that point. And so they, like, just pulled in employees, and Gabe himself is voiced by a guy who was just a truck driver.
And everybody loves him.
Yeah. It was pretty common, because they were trying to do it on the cheap back then. So you would just sort of get people in as you could. So it certainly created some iconic voice performances to do that.
Yeah.
Even if it was iconic in not quite the most polished way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's another thing that was iconic about this game is the taser.
Apparently, yeah.
Which I saw in multiple Reddit threads. Basically, so you start out, like, you have different weapons in the game, of course. It's a shooter, right? And one of the weapons you start out with, apparently, is the taser, which is way more powerful than any real-life taser. Or perhaps you have far more ability to push it beyond the limits than I've ever seen a real taser utilized, right? But you can shoot the enemy with it. They, like, sort of catch on fire, like, first smoke, then fire, and you can burn them to death.
Yeah, I don't think that's what a taser does.
Yeah, I mean, it is more like flamethrower, but not throwing the flames.
Yeah.
Fire laser.
Yeah.
Also, apparently, it has unlimited shots, so people use the taser a lot. Even the development team, I think in that Sony interview, was also like, oh yeah, like, we also all loved the taser.
It's a super spy taser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of things about this game that seem very basic that were apparently, like, quite innovative that I read about in various reviews, contemporary and otherwise. IGN was very impressed by the idea that, like, when the camera got close to the wall, that Gabe's head would turn transparent. So you could, like, see through him.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, that is, like, a standard thing you have to do.
Right, can you imagine now if you played a game and it was like, no, like, you're just looking at the character's blocky head.
Yeah. It is interesting, like, yeah, little tiny things that are sort of an expected part of quality of life now.
Yeah.
That were, like, big innovations.
Yeah.
At the time. That's interesting to think about.
Or they had a targeting system for your shots. That was a big deal.
Yes, that they said they were inspired from Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
But they didn't like how in that it would just, like, immediately snap to a player, to an enemy. And so they implemented a version that allowed you to more carefully control your aim. I don't remember what interview, but they were saying, like, yeah, we saw Miyamoto playing that too, enthusiastically, and then there was a targeting thing in the next Mario game, so we wonder if we were inspired by the same thing.
Awesome.
Which is super funny. But yeah, like, letting the player, like, sort of aim well.
Yeah, who would have thought?
I also liked, they talked about for a long time in development, it was you didn't have health points.
Yeah.
Just if you were hit, you died. Just
Ahead
sort
of
of
their
like
time. Souls-like.
ramp up the tension of these like sort of realistic, quote unquote, like super spy encounters. And also because it was like the cover shooter sort of thing, the pop up and shoot, it added a lot of like real tension to those scenes. But ultimately by the end they decided like this probably isn't fun though.
Yeah.
So they gave a more standard health bar to work with.
There's also a danger meter, which I thought was kind of like a fun twist on that, though. Where, like, basically the more you fight, the more you're seen. Like, if your danger meter is all the way, the enemy shot will always hit. So I was like, that's like an interesting...
That is
interesting mechanic.
Yeah.
It's also very of this era of games. So despite the fact, like, this game has a very intricate and, like, kind of not high concept exactly, but, like, winding and complex story, right?
Yeah.
And so you'd think, like, oh, like, maybe that was really plotted out, or maybe, like, they were very... And as Emma already said, you know, they did not, like, have the concept for this game and then enact it. They got like a 1-page synopsis that was like about scientists building a time machine or something, basically, like totally different than the actual game. And in that Sony review, blog, they were they asked them like multiple questions about like how the game changed from the original concept. Like, what was the original concept of the game? And all of the responses are this like vaguely annoyed, like there was no original concept. So there's nothing it could have changed from. We just made it up as we went.
Although they do emphasize strongly that, like, in the writing process, they did want a logical reason why you went from place to place, as opposed to just having, like, random set pieces.
However, that was such an interesting comment juxtaposed with what they've also said about how, like, even a few weeks before release, they were reordering the levels. I have a hard time understanding how that is possible.
I mean, I assume that redoing the voice acting probably was not as difficult.
That's fair.
Back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were thinking about what would be the most logical sort of progression for the story to go from this level to this level to this level.
Yeah.
It's not... That sort of thing still happens now, but it is certainly a much bigger undertaking to get that to work.
Well, it just sounded massively stressful to me. And
yeah, I mean, they were absolutely, you know, people looking back at like when games were made in like a year or whatever, do sort of undersell that, like, yeah, and everybody was crunching really hard.
Sure.
It does seem they've talked about there was definitely a lot of heads down crunch time on these games that perhaps it's better that we shouldn't have now.
Yeah.
I guess now it's still worse because we have that and it takes like 5 years to make a game.
And nobody asks you to make another game after you've made Bubsy 3D.
Yeah, exactly.
One last interesting thing for me is that I saw a lot of sort of anecdotal reports online and various kind of like, I'm writing about this game from my childhood reviews of people who discovered it from the demo disc in PlayStation Magazine.
Yeah.
Which, man, there is no discovery avenue like that anymore, is there?
No.
How do we get back to mailing people demo discs?
I don't know. Invest in Game Informer.
I guess so. Well, anything else to say about Syphon Filter? It, like, almost got me interested.
Yeah. I'm definitely still getting back around to the Metal Gear Solids. It's probably higher on my priority list.
That
in
seems
terms
correct.
Of gaming education for myself. But I mean, it is certainly quite cheap on PSN.
I don't know. I saw enough retrospective reviews that were kind of like...
I mean, it's an old game.
Yeah, no, I know.
Right? It is not... The version available on PSN is not like a remaster with additional quality of life features or anything. You have to go into it being like, okay, this is going to be an old game.
No, but sometimes, like, there's, sometimes the old games hold up. And this one, a lot of the retrospectives seem to be like, I totally understand why people love this in 1999.
Yeah.
And like, not even in that, sometimes those things are like quite patronizing in tone. They're like, I understand why people love this. No, it's like much more like, I totally get why people love this. We have done this better now.
Yeah, I mean, that's also the risk of playing something that's sort of like a genre originator of sorts.
Yeah.
Is that you look at it and you're like, yeah,
I
we
recognize
definitely iterated
this.
on this.
Yeah.
Well, is it time?
I don't know. Emma,
Should we come back in another 4 years and finish this episode off?
Yeah, I know. Can you edit in a gigantic pause right here?
We're talking about Hollow Knight Silksong.
Woo!
The 2025 sequel to Hollow Knight. A brutally difficult Metroidvania from Team Cherry. Available on everything.
Yes. So you've probably heard of Silksong if you're listening to a video games podcast.
Yeah.
Or if you've ever watched a Nintendo Direct in the past, 6 years.
Yes. Seeing the chat going, Silksong, Silksong. What are they talking about?
Silksong.
Oh, the youth with their lingo.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
So Hollow Knight was this wildly successful, indie Dark Souls level of difficulty platformer Metroidvania where you play as Hollow Knight. This is gonna be a bad synopsis, whatever. You're in the Bug Kingdom. You don't really know what's going. Hollow Knight is very much I don't know, dude. Jump around and figure it out.
Yes, you're descending in Hollow Knight.
Yeah,
deeper into, I think it's Hallow Nest.
Yeah,
is where you are.
Yeah,
in that one.
And so in Silksong, you play as Hornet, who's the princess of Hallow Nest.
Yes, she was a boss fight and a supporting character in the original Hollow Knight.
And she, in this game, gets taken political prisoner, basically, and is whisked away to Farloom, which is a nice, bug weaving loom, whatever. Mm-hmm. I get it. Which is basically this, classic, capitalism, religion situation where there's all the peons toiling away to be elevated in this cult. This cult where they all love Syphon filter. Cult classic. There's also a sort of curse of madness in this kingdom called the Haunting. And so when Hornet escapes from prison, she, tries to figure out what's going on.
Yes, in this one you are ascending up to the Citadel. Not to make a trite comparison, but a lot of Silksong reminds me of
Hollow Knight.
The worldview of Dark Souls stuff.
Sure.
And I don't mean that in they're two difficult games, blah, blah, blah. But they're both very preoccupied with examining faith. And I think Silksong even more sort of religious structures.
Yeah.
And so and of course they are both hard to sort of, in a way that's supposed to thematically emphasize those points.
Right.
Right.
That is such a fine games line to walk, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, when Silksong came out, and Hollow Knight is considered a hard game.
Yep.
But when Silksong came out, there was definitely a lot of discourse around its overall difficulty. Not just in the boss fights are hard, but in that the resource allocation is really difficult. There's these really long run backs after you lose to a boss. A lot of damage does you start off with 3 points of health and most damage does 2 points of health. So you get 2 hits and then you're dead until you get 5 hit points. So Like, even getting your first point of hit points, it's like, wow, this doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of discussion about, like, the difficulty of it and whether games need to have, like, ways to make it easier and, you know, what the difficulty was doing for its themes and all of that. It was definitely a hotbed of discussion.
I hate a run back, so...
Yes. There are things that I've read, you know, criticism of Silksong that frames these things in its themes in a way where I get it.
Yeah.
Right? Where I'm like, okay, I sort of can buy that Team Cherry was thinking about that when they did this. But it still sounds like it sucks.
I do have to say that the Polygon review comparing this game with a straight face to Infinite Jest was like a lot for me.
I honestly don't know enough about Infinite Jest to...
Like, it also makes it, you know, very hard to, you know, it's intentionally make it hard for you as the reader, and that's, like, part of the experience. Which, like, okay, like, I get it, but I was like, God, like, what a... You gotta... You know what they're saying about you already, Polygon. Like, you gotta... Please.
Well, this is something I was thinking about. You know, the question of whether everybody should be able to finish a game and the ways that games can make it harder. Like you said, there's like Infinite Jest. You can start reading a book that has like a higher vocabulary level than you're used to. You can watch a very long movie, a very esoteric movie, but games definitely have more room to be like, I just can't finish this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, my skills are not there. You have to be skilled to finish this.
Yeah.
Right? Which is an interesting conundrum to think about and sort of a unique space where you can make meaning, but in a way that will inevitably draw criticism.
I guess books are the closest, but even then, if you don't understand what's going on, just flip forward a few pages, I guess. Right? Like, you'll lose some element of it. But yeah, I guess there is really nothing else that's like, no, like, really, maybe like a choose your own adventure book. Haha, just kidding. That's ultimately really just a video game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I have such a personal distaste for having to conquer something over and over and over in that way. And I sort of understand the thematics of it, you know, whatever, in real life and the systems we're in. Just because you succeed once doesn't mean you know, don't fall down again and have to do it again. But I don't know.
And, like, there is some intentionally very cruel things that they have put in here.
Yeah.
Like, fake benches, right?
Yeah.
That has shown up in other things before, but you can sit on a bench and it can kill you.
Yeah.
Or one point of discussion that came up is, like, the boss of the first area, the last boss of the first area is called the Last Judge. And when you defeat the Last Judge, he explodes.
Yeah.
And that explosion can kill you. If you are not prepared. If you put your controller down to be like, oh, I did it. Right?
Yeah.
Or you're stuck in a corner, or you're not paying attention. And, like, that's there because it's emphasizing how, like, there's no way past this judge, right?
Mm-hmm.
You defeat him, and in one last, like, F you, he explodes to keep you from, you know, being able to have judge to be able to move up in the society, right? But also it's mean.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about, I feel like you could talk a lot about Silksong and sort of the power control kind of spectrum of the player. and what that does for the themes and stuff. But yeah, I like, and also you can just, it's for what it's worth in this discussion, you can be like, oh yeah, I see the thematic merit of this, but I don't really wanna, you know.
Yeah. And that's like the tricky line to walk. And obviously, it's not a tricky line to walk if you're Team Cherry, really.
Yeah, it's really funny to read interviews with Team Cherry where they're like, yeah, we're having fun.
Yeah.
We're doing good. We're doing what we want.
We
We're
could have
not
spent
online.
15 years making this game.
We don't check online. We didn't really get hit with COVID.
I know that we
had
didn't
a
really get hit with
brunch.
COVID was insane tidbit in that
We're not using Jira. We're just vibing.
Yeah, so
And
they
then
did
it's really
this interview with
funny.
Jason Schreier at Bloomberg.
Yes.
Like basically talking through, you know, hey, why did it take so long, boys? It just seems like it took so long because they have unlimited money from Hollow Knight and didn't feel like finishing the game.
Yeah. I mean, they were saying in like exhibits and stuff afterwards. So like they were working on that game till about a week before it came out.
Yeah.
They were making changes. And they've made some post game like tweaks as well based on feedback. But it is very interesting to like read interviews with Team Cherry, these very offline guys, and think about like the storm of discourse around Hollow Knight.
Yeah.
It's like I'm sure these guys simply were not thinking about any of this in a way.
Somewhere in there they were like, we kind of felt like if we finished the game, we'd spoil all their fun.
Yeah.
I
but
also
yes,
liked
it was initially supposed to just be DLC.
Yeah.
But they've talked about like Hornet's moveset did not feel like it suited the level design of the spaces of Hollow Knight, so we wanted to make a new space for her, and so that essentially exploded it out into a sequel.
And then they made the classic blunder of announcing it. Well, I guess if the problem being like, oh, you've announced it as DLC, and then you changed your mind, does put you in a rough position.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, wow, it did take them like 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it's not their fault that like the Xbox social media team blew up their spot.
Yeah.
But it was wild to me for it to be like, oh, there was a playable demo in 2019 at E3.
Yeah.
And then it didn't come out until 2025.
Probably with stuff in it that isn't even in the final game.
Oh, certainly.
One of the things that comes from they've shared sort of their development timeline, like they shared like a map and the way that the map changed over the course of development, and there was like a whole zone that they cut.
I mean,
at some point,
that's
and
how it be.
I mean, speaking of like reorganizing levels, that's the sort of privilege that they have, that they can spend like 3 years with a zone and then be like, actually, I don't know if this is really adding anything.
Yeah.
And just, like, take it out.
I also thought it was interesting. We've talked on the show in the past, and there's plenty of discourse around, God, it's hard to be a gaming reviewer. Not even in the, landscape of journalism, really. Like, the state of the industry. But just like, wow, like, you're asked to play games really under the gun.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to me so this game was announced, like the release date for this game was announced like 2 weeks before it came out. And we've talked on the show, and I won't reiterate too much the like, oh, like that caused a lot of chaos for other games that had planned their release date. And then this, total juggernaut of sucking up the media attention appears out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Which is particularly funny given that like these guys didn't give a crap. Like, I'm sure they obviously would have disrupted someone's release timeline at any point, but like, why did they do it that way?
I just think they weren't thinking about it. They're like, it's done.
But see, okay, so that gets at exactly what I'm going to say here, which is that they didn't send out review codes for this game. So like all of the reviews are people being like, I played 50 hours of this in the past week and I'm not done, and here are my impressions, right? Mm-hmm. And Silksong is, of course, like basically a review-proof game. There's so much hype around it. Hollow Knight sold like 15 million copies. This has sold at least 7 or 8. Not to mention it's a Game Pass day one, so millions more people have played it that way. So like there was no risk. One, there was no real risk the game was going to be so bad that the reviews were going to be bad. And two, even if the reviews were bad, they still would have made a ton of money. Like the game was going to sell. But it's interesting to me that like they seem to have just gotten away with that. Like have gotten away with not sending the review codes just because they seem like bumbling men, basically.
There was some discussion about it at the time. But, I mean, that could be a whole topic in itself. I was just reading a discussion on Kotaku yesterday about embargoes. With Saros coming out, apparently has a very strong embargo, and they feel like they can't talk in advance about the things that make the game interesting.
Right.
And so there's this discussion of like, well, what is a review supposed to be, and how do different people see it, right? Like, for the person releasing the game, in a way, the review is just like a marketing. They want it to be a marketing beat.
Right.
The reviews come out. People are talking about their reviews. They're looking forward to the game, right? Like, so that's more important than like necessarily what's in the review, as long as it's reasonably positive.
Yeah.
Right.
As long as you get a 7.5 at least.
And I would say, you know, certainly there's some value to like a buyer's guide review for games, right? As much as they are art, they're also technology.
Yep.
And sometimes something comes out and it's broken, and you would like to know that before you buy it, right? More than even knowing like about the story or the gameplay or whatever. Sometimes you just need like a functions.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, there's also the balance of like spoilers, right? Of like trusting game reviewers to be able to make that distinction themselves and to inform the reader ahead of time before they go into it.
Yep.
But then also in the game reviewing space, there's a lack of, you know, institutional knowledge. So you get like people who don't really know how to do that writing reviews.
Yeah.
And that erodes trust because there's not enough money for the veterans to help support the new generation. And so there's like a, you know, cutoff difference. And so in a way, like a lot of Silksong reviews and writing coming out after the game's release allowed for a lot of interesting pieces, right? That are engaging more with the work as a whole in a way that they might not have if they'd come out a week before release.
That's true.
So, I don't know. There's a lot to think about in terms of like how games handle reviews versus other artistic industries, and like what should be in a review versus a piece of criticism after the game comes out anyway, and like the responsibility of the writer and the reader of reviews to like respect each other and what is chosen to be revealed, right, in that writing. So, I don't know. It's tough.
That's a good synopsis of that.
But on Team Cherry's part, I think probably they're like, we don't need the marketing beat of reviews, and we're still working on this, technically. So let's just release it, I think was probably the thought process.
I get it. It just, the way they talked about, like, there's some, I don't remember where I read this interview with them, but they were basically like, oh, we just didn't think of it.
Yeah.
Which is like, you didn't think of it? I don't know. It just, I was like, okay, like, you all seem to have crafted enough of a persona of like, whatever, we're vibing around. That, like, you can get away with that, but there's no freaking way that this wasn't calculated.
I kind of believe it.
Fair.
They do not seem like they are very... I mean, there's only a few of them.
I know. It just felt insensitive to me. It just felt like, oh, like, you know, these people are going to have to be, like, beaten I don't know, whatever. There's any number of reasons. Something about it just like stuck with me. I was like, huh, like interesting that they seem to have like more or less gotten away with that for this game that is massive.
Yeah.
But ultimately the reviews were good. I will say for this game, probably you could have had both. I hear you about the like interesting pieces that came out. Silksong is so huge and they knew that people would want to digest so much content about it, that it does sort of feel to me like, unlike many games where you're going to get one write-up and that's it, you probably could have had the buyer's guide and then also had the infinite jest line by line comparison.
Sure.
And both would have happened. And for me, I did not buy this at launch. I have enough games to play. But hey, now that I've read about those brutal runbacks, I'm like, maybe it's not for me.
You don't really play Metroidvanias anyway.
I played Animal Well.
That's true.
I liked Animal Well. I played Carrion.
That's true.
I don't not play Metroidvanias. I just don't. They're just not smack in the middle of Madelyn Core.
Yeah. I will probably get around to Hollow Knight at some point. I don't think it's high up the priority list. I don't really play Metroidvanias.
Above or below Metal Gear?
Probably below Metal Gear.
Yeah, fair enough.
I actually have the first Metal Gear collection.
That does help.
So, yeah.
Well, you ready to mash?
Let's mash. Super Spy Bugs.
Like, maybe. Not the worst idea. It's like Hollow Knight, but you're like a little spy bug inside a computer.
Yeah.
Like a tech reskin.
Oh, like a not a real bug.
That's what I mean. Yeah, not one of the, that's the spy trope, right?
Yeah. Yeah, a game where you bug things.
Mm-hmm.
Does that count as a mashup?
No.
I think you could make a game about, well, you could, and then there would be a lot of discussion around it probably, but a game about like infiltrating like a religious organization.
Mm-hmm. That could be something. Yeah, there would be a lot of discourse, but
I mean, it'd probably be a fake religious organization. But,
I mean, sure.
Yeah.
Would definitely be. But I think you could also, so obviously Syphon Filter is about a virus, right?
Yeah.
So you could also be like, is this what Cells at Work is? Like, you could just be like, I'm a virus.
Yeah.
Like a more body infiltration situation.
Yeah, a bug like...
Yeah, like an illness
flu.
bug.
Yeah.
That's cool that we found two different spy bug things. That's really good.
Yeah, the Cells at Work is about defeating bugs.
Sure, I meant like in reverse, kind of.
Yeah.
But that could be too. Could also be that. Like you're a blood cell, white blood cell, and you've got to fend off you're like saving the body.
Yeah.
This is all kind of corny, unfortunately. But, try my best here.
I mean, I think those are all valid.
Yeah.
We got bugs, you got spies.
Yeah.
Pretty easy.
I know.
Pretty good mashup material.
Yeah. Maybe in this game, I have a...
In this one, you do have the one hit, one kill
yes.
system.
Oh, am I creating, shoot. What's the game I'm thinking of?
I don't know, Madelyn.
You've got Katana Zero.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
I'm kind of making Katana Zero.
Bug Spy Katana Zero.
Not the worst thing. Maybe you have a gun.
Sure.
Or a taser. instead of a sword.
Yeah.
To help differentiate.
Hornet has like a needle thing. And also silk.
Yeah.
That could be used in various ways.
Yeah.
The silk, like, you have like the super spy, like, what are those things called? Where you shoot the wire.
Oh, zip line, maybe.
I don't think they're called zip lines necessarily.
Whatever.
But the things you create can be zip lines. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, the wire shooters.
There you go.
The super spy wire shooters.
All right. Before we get too crazy here, actually, that would be pretty good. I think we're onto something.
Yeah.
And on that note, this has been another episode of Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
Do you think they should have waited like another 3 years to release Silksong just for the fun of it? Do you wish they would release another Syphon Zero? Are there any other applications of spies and bugs that we didn't think about here that could be turned into a game mashup? Do you have thoughts about this or anything else we talked about this week? Hit us up on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and YouTube at Talk This Podcast. You can also visit our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can read all about the show, check out the games in the hat, and read our blog. Eventually, I'll write that Is Pac-Man a Vegetarian? Post. But most importantly, if you enjoyed the show, you ought to subscribe. We're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts, online and on the app, Overcast, Pocket Casts, anywhere you can find podcasts. Go ahead and subscribe to Talk This, so you never miss an episode. Next week, it's Emma's side quest, but Emma, what are we talking about in 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks, for our old game, we're talking about Fear. That's F.E.A.R.
Sure.
And for our new game, we're talking about Ball Pit.
Like Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, I don't know how. Spy family, Hunter.
Yeah.
I guess you ignore the X. Ball Pit.
Well, look forward to that. That's it for this week's show. Thanks for listening. Emma, do you have a punchline for my joke? I don't know. Sign us off.
I don't have a punchline for your joke. This week, I hope you enjoy waiting for the Hollow Knight Silksong expansion content.